Hi, get ready to get your geek on with this one because I'm going to take a detailed look at the raw tones of the third wave from Groove Synthesis and the Behringer WAVE. Now these both emulate the PPG down to the finest details, and if you've seen any of my other videos on these, you'll know all about the imaging and aliasing we get in these old synths and the reasons for it. They were unwanted artifacts back in the day, but they do have a certain character, so we've sort of fallen in love with them again. And you can't make the same sort of tones using slow processors because these use 128 sample long wavetables, and if you're using 128 sample long wavetable, which they did because of a lack of memory back in the 80s, or the cost of memory back in the 80s, it meant you needed a really fast processor. And things like the Korg Wave State and stuff like that, for example, use a Raspberry Pi, so they're not fast enough to do it. They can emulate it quite well, but if you're into those specific tones, you need a machine that's designed to do it from the ground up, which is what both of these apparently are, but we'll see if they're close to each other as we go into this. So yeah, there's going to be graphs, there's going to be oscilloscopes, so yeah, settle in and we'll take a close look at both of them. But it's not going to be a comparison of the two synths because the third wave does so much more. The third wave's got 3 oscillators, for example. It's got 4 LFOs. It's got this wave envelope, a 6-stage wave envelope that loads of stuff can be put through using its comprehensive modulation matrix. It's got effects. It's got 24 voices. It's essentially 4 synths in one. And I should also mention that in the third wave, we've got these 96 kilohertz wavetables that come with it. Here's one I've put in myself. You can use the audio input to create a wavetable from an audio source, so it actually acts like the PPG wave term. And on top of that, we've got square, triangle, sine, the super saw. So we've got a virtual analog machine there as well. That does have an analog filter, an analog low pass filter at least, and a state variable digital filter. Plus we've got a much more modern user interface. Oh, and did I mention sampling and sequencing? Oh, yeah. So the PPG-ness of the third wave is like 20% of what it can do. The Behringer WAVE has been designed specifically to be a clone or an emulation of the PPG wave, and it sticks really rigidly to those principles, even down to this hieroglyphic user interface. We've got 2 oscillators, but they're not independent. We've got a single LFO. We've got 3 envelopes, but the third envelope's just attack and decay. So the Behringer can do a fraction of what the third wave can do, but it is a fraction of the price. And as you might expect with a premium product, the overall finish is better on the third wave. The wave's got plastic shafts, for example, in the third wave is a metal. The keys feel nicer on the third wave. The paint job is spectacular. And little finishing touches like the end screws being countersunk and the buttons lighting up. All those little things that add up. And I'm not Behringer bashing in any way, but when one costs so much more, you would hope that there's evidence of where some of that money goes. So in this, definitely just sticking to the PPG tones only. I've set them up with a really basic patch. Choosing Wave 0 and try to match the envelopes or the release on the envelopes as best I can. The filter's fully open, so we're just listening to the waves. So if we come into Wave 1, starting with the third wave, then we can see what the wave's going to be doing. The wavetable and wave offset knobs have got indents in them. So it's really easy to pick out individual waves, and you can hear that I've got the wave flow off, got the smoothing off, so you're getting individual waves as it moves from one to the next. Discrete changes. On the Behringer, I've set it up so that it doesn't have the interpolation between the waves either. And you can see we're getting discrete waves on that. It's a smooth knob, so it's harder to do, but... And then when we get to the end of the wavetable, we get the triangle, the pulse, the square, and the sawtooth, and we can see it all happening in there. Camera's probably not picking that up because there's quite a wide shot here. So coming back into this, Wave offset. There we go. Just to prove we've got them in there. So I think we can say they've got the same waves in there. I have checked a few of the others and they are the same. There's no reason why they wouldn't be. You can hear them both being a bit springy down that end. All sorts of harmonics coming in there. Now that's the imaging. And they are staggeringly close, aren't they, on those oscilloscopes? If we play up higher up, you can hear we've got all those little artifacts in there. You can hear them really clearly in that one, can't you? Now to get this to play higher up, oh, here we go. I was just about to say that we've got a much wider range on the third wave, not only because we've got a 5-octave keyboard, but you can just play higher and lower notes than you can on the wave for some reason. But anyway, if we want to go higher on this, that's the top note we can get. On this. That's that one. But listen to that aliasing there. It's a lovely sound, isn't it? We are getting aliasing in both of them, slightly different, but actually it's not really much different to when I played the third wave against the PPG, and the way differences in the aliasing there. In fact, someone went really mental in the comments because I said they're similar. I said not similar in the least. That's how geeky some people are about this. So each note is slightly different. See, there's a lot more on the third wave than that one. But there's still some on the Behringer. So they are different. But whether one's closer to a PPG or not. An awful lot of stuff happening there. Yeah, I think overall, while I've been doing this test, I've found the third wave to be maybe a little bit more aliasy. But once you go into doing it like this, they're just a bit different, aren't they? I've just found the third wave to be a little bit more characterful. I'll go down an octave. But, you know, we're talking minor differences, aren't we? So that's aliasing. They both do it. The anti-aliasing filters are off and it sounds like an old 80s machine. So let's go down to the low end and let's have a little play with some of the other artifacts, the imaging. I can really hear stuff happening there, can't you? All those little harmonics in the top end shouldn't be there really. They're a digital artifact, they're the imaging. Now with this, in order to tune it lower, I'm going to have to go into the tuning and press this down here. Now we're 2 octaves lower. All very similar, isn't it? And if you haven't watched any of my other videos where I describe what imaging is, essentially if you've got a note that you've played or a sample that you played up at the top end of the keyboard, and then you're playing something lower down, it's got to make samples, it's got to create new samples in there, because if you've got 128 up here, you're going to need 256 for this, you're going to need 512 for that, you're going to need 1,024 samples for that, and you're going to need 2,048 samples there. Where have those additional 1,900 samples or whatever came from? Well, the synths just repeated the same one, so you get that digital step-in. That's a sort of famous look that you rarely get in anything, but this is one of the use cases where you actually do get step-in in a digital wave. And if you zoom into a sample of one of those low notes, you can see here, for every one actual sample from the original 128, you've got 14 extra samples that the synths just created to make a longer wave, to be able to play it lower. But because that forms part of the wave, it then creates a new tone, and that new tone's got those additional harmonics in, and that's what we're listening to. Yeah, remarkably similar again. Let's try something else. Let's try another wave. Let's try the same one on this. Where are we? Wavetable. Yeah, you wouldn't really say there was a difference there, would you? Imaging, aliasing, lack of wave smoothing, so discrete waves from wave to wave. What else? Envelope. I have tried to match these, as I said in the intro. On the third wave, you get the option of a normal exponential wave or the PPG style linear waves. I'm on the linear wave here. Very similar, aren't they? Bit longer on this one, maybe. Let's make that a little bit longer. That's a complaint people have asked for, and myself, in the Behringer WAVE, because they do cut off abruptly. It might sound like a PPG, but actually it's not the most useful. At least on the third wave, we've got the option of the exponential. If I come into miscellaneous, envelope type, exponential. A much smoother drop off at the end. But I did say it's not a comparison of the two synths, because the third wave would completely blow the Behringer WAVE away from that perspective. But yes, sonically, I think I've looked at everything I was going to look at, actually. Very short video, but just showing those main digital artifacts and how they both do them, and they both do sound very similar. And as the third wave is almost like my benchmark, because I did put that up against my mate's PPG, yeah, it makes the Behringer WAVE very impressive for the price. You know, if all you're after is something that will recreate a PPG, this is doing it. If you can face the conundrum of how to use the interface, and even just sticking with your PPG style tones, with the third wave, you do have 3 Behringer waves in here, because you've got 24 voices, of course. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please do subscribe, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon. This channel is funded by my wonderful patrons, who for less than the price of a dodgy coffee a month get access to patches, samples, and various tutorials and other bits and bobs. And do take a look at my starskycar.com website as well. Again, patches and samples and stuff to download. And if you're thinking of picking either of these up, please do use the affiliate links, because that really does help. It doesn't cost you any more, but I get a little small bonus from it. I'm talking small as well, but it does all help. So thanks very much for staying to the very, very end. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time.